Finally, the grand old party has reached the moment where it's supposed to be about bringing Republicans together in one mighty show of solidarity and support, showing the nation that this is the party of togetherness, unity, of everyone moving exactly in the same direction and heading for Pennsylvania Avenue. Yeah, about that. The never-Trump forces have been neatly tucked into their little space and neutralized, or so we are led to believe. But the RNC convention still packed with goodies and relative nobodies for keynote speakers and a promise of more showmanship than talking about solutions for America. Now, solutions are front and center, necessary for the current attacks on cops in America. A president who still can't seem to understand his role in getting out in front of the racial discourse against law enforcement, and the need for both sides to stop injuring themselves with knee-jerking that runs the gamut from dangerous to ridiculous. Your phone call is always a part of what we do as the conversation moves forward. Your best bet, get on the line now, 1-877-Newsmax, and be part of the program. I'm Ed Berliner. This is The Hardline for Monday, July 18th, 2016.
Mr. Trump, well, what's your definition of trade? It says very simple. Very simple. I know free, I know fair, I know every form of trade known to mankind, okay? Here's my definition of trade. My definition of trade is that I want to make great deals for the American people. You can call it whatever the hell you want.
We have reached the point of no return, and that is something a good number of Republicans are thrilled with. The moment in time many of them believe is the precise time when the fortunes of this country will change for the better, when the businessman completes his takeover of a stale and boring old party and drives it toward a new level of political greatness that will shake the foundations of American government and make people understand why there is a need to, in their words, make America great again. There is, of course, the other side of this historical note, one that should not be ignored. The four-day event where a good number of Republicans are convinced there's no reason to celebrate. The moment in time many of them believe is the precise time when the grand old party will take a nosedive in both the American consciousness and that of the world, where the questionable businessman, who has still yet to release his tax returns, will drive the Republicans into the ground and shake the foundation of the party of Lincoln, or even Honest Abe's ghost will seek to hide from the end result. Because in their way of thinking, America's great, has been great, doesn't need the complete overhaul promised by a reality show host. Cleveland is here. Republicans everywhere on both sides are seeking to prove they are nothing like the Browns. Your phone calls are welcome at 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-639-7629. Get on the line, have an opinion, and get to the point. Now the work begins. Let's head for Quicken Loans Arena in the rock and roll capital of the world to start tuning up with Newsmax chief Washington correspondent John Gizzi. John, all that has gone on behind you today, and the big news this day, the anti-Trump delegates, they were on a roll. They wanted a roll call vote, and there was all sorts of confusion. If you can, capsulate this for us and give us an idea of what happened and how dramatic things were on the floor.
It was pretty dramatic, Ed, when you heard the no's shouting against the ayes, then the loud boos, and the inevitable walkout. Essentially, those who wanted a vote of conscience, beaten at the Rules Committee, now wanted to take their case, a case for every delegate to disregard the votes in primaries and the rules of states and party organizations, were going to the floor of the convention. They required 8 states to have a roll call on their measure, which would have released all of the delegates from commitments to Donald Trump and anyone else. A truly open convention. And then votes from different states began to diminish. People started taking their signatures off petitions, and in the end, only 2 states had the majority of delegates out of the 9 that were needed to take it for a vote. The voice vote was enough. Chairman Priebus ruled that the rules were accepted, and then a walkout began with the 2 remaining states, Colorado and Virginia. But as one person told me after this, these are not the people who are going to be electing a president in November. They were delegates who fought to the bitter end from 2 states.
Is this, in your opinion, a huge, I'll go ahead and use his word, win for Donald Trump?
Yes, it is a win for Donald Trump. He has said all along it's his convention, Virtually every opponent he had has weighed in behind him. And certainly we have heard daily that party elders, ranging from both President Bush's to Mitt Romney to Ohio Governor John Kasich, the last man standing in the race against Donald Trump, won't be here and won't support him. They're very much a minority in a minority when it comes to the convention that cheers Donald Trump's name and will give his wife a heroine's welcome tonight.
There is much discussion about Ted Cruz, how he might have to endorse Donald Trump. He wants to make a speech that will look forward to the future of the Republican Party, but there are those still believing that there's something up his sleeve that he will not go after. He will not basically endorse Donald Trump. Is there still talk that Ted Cruz's moment could be not a defining moment, but a moment to watch and pay attention to this week?
Ed, I knew Ted Cruz before he came to the Senate, and if nothing else, he's a scholar and a student of history. He knows two things, I'm sure. Number one, that when one makes a winning speech at a convention, even in defeat, be it Barry Goldwater when he said, "Grow up, conservatives," or be it Ronald Reagan in 1976 when he gave the preview of his future speeches about a shining city on the hill, it can make the future and turn defeat into a future victory. He also knows when one walks away from the nominee, as Governor Nelson Rockefeller and Governor George Romney, Mitt's dad, did from Barry Goldwater, the party grassroots usually doesn't forgive. They failed miserably against the person who stayed loyal and campaigned for Goldwater, Richard Nixon. Need I say more? Ted Cruz will make a fine and magnanimous speech.
You need not say anything else. We do want to say this, though. Catch John's continuing coverage of the Republican Convention 24/7 right here on Newsmax and at Newsmax.com. John, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. Be safe. Now.